Is an audio recording of the series Asian Blues by Jeesue Kim, available on Amazon.com and Kindle. It's called Cat Stew, and it's one of the chapters of Asian Blues. It's during my time growing up in Busan, Korea in 1970s before coming to America. Cat Stew. During the cold winter, a neighbor's cat disappeared and never returned. The last of the cats cried, echoed in the night with the last of the geese flying across the moon. The drums have long stopped playing after the harvest moon. Boom, boom, boom. And during the cold evenings, there was silence except for the sound of the frequent rain before it turned to snow softly falling on our rooftops, which by day made our cheeks and hands turn red underneath our hats and mittens. Jinna's maid asked about the cat to all of our neighbors. No one knew what happened to it, except for Mrs. Cho's maid, who was busy cooking some meat stew. The smell of the stew was very gamey, and plenty of vegetables and chicken bones were seeped into the soup base before the stew simmered over the stove for several hours. After the soup evaporated, there remained a meal of rare, thick consistency to be eaten with steamed rice. The maid stopped by our house before dinner and gave us a sampling dish of the stew to eat with our evening meal. Uma, my mother, accepted kindly but put it by the trash in the kitchen. It smelled a little funny, she said. Later in the evening, thinking about her long lost pet, the turtle, Sister He started to hover over the stew. She took some pieces and fed them to Harmony's eager rat that was more than appreciative for any leftover smorgasbord, no matter how strange it smelled. The rat wasn't too picky and couldn't afford to turn down any offer of consideration for its well being. After the first bite, it coughed up a piece, but quickly ate it up again and sniffed for more. He then gave the rat the whole dish, which it gobbled down between its puffed up cheeks. Sadly, the next morning, we found the rat in the kitchen, dead, with its feet sticking straight up in the air. My sisters and I stared at this oddity with wonder. Uma came out to see in the kitchen and to check what we were all gawking at and screamed, "Ah!" Harmony came into the kitchen to see what the commotion was about, and when she saw the dead rat, she broke down in tears. My rat, she cried as she leaned down to pick up the stiff rat in her arms. Why would anyone want to do that to my rat? It was probably Miss Cho's maid who did it with her meat stew. She never liked that rat going through their trash bins. She says she gets a fright sometimes coming across the rat who gives her a cold stare while guarding her leftovers. But it didn't do any harm, Harmony said. It just cleaned up the food, which God meant for it to clean up in our sewers. Why would anyone do that? Well, Harmony cried and cried all through the night. The rat was her pet, but also Harmony too. A part of her died with it. I'm a scavenger, Harmony said. That rat was just like me. Nothing wasted, nothing thrown out. Save everything for tomorrow. That's how it was during the war, you see. We had nothing to eat. Your uncle was so hungry he scraped the bark of a tree and suffered from constipation. He ruined his stomach that way. Your father was lucky. He was in the army, they fed him. It was only a small bowl of rice, but he was fed at least. That's all.